for anxiety and ADHD is find an outlet for creativity, whether it's drawing, painting, building, workbooks, dance, martial arts, physical creativity, or technical creativity. Get that energy moving, so it's not in your head so much. Create something with your hands. Do something that you can bring that down into your body and move it around a little bit. And recognize the unique strengths of your unique quirkiness, of your child's uniqueness, and play to them, not only to create less resistance in routine, but also to give them confidence. Self-esteem is a big aspect to them realizing their potential. So anxious children are sometimes anxious to help too. These hyperactive, restless children are sometimes anxious to do something. They want to help with chores, tasks, cleaning, just participate, bring them in. It's really good for their confidence as well. So another thing that can be helped and help self-esteem is a clear mind, and a clear surrounding can help that too. So less clutter, more routine, less overwhelm. Shut off the news, adult stressors, try not to talk about them in front of your children. They pick up on these things a lot. Take news fast, especially now that kids' lives have been very disrupted this year. And they're actually very exposed to a lot of stressors, and their parents are as well. So they might be becoming more demanding or clingy or whatever, and needing more from the parent. The parent itself is feeling very pressured, so it becomes this cycle. So just creating a nice space, a haven where they can retreat to with you or alone, incorporate some quiet time, relaxing music, diffusing essential oils like lavender, dim lighting, just to let that nervous system recharge. I really want to put that idea of like, how is their nervous system doing? So in the literature, let me see if I have my notes on the exact statistics. So anxiety disorders are the most common childhood onset psychiatric disorders, and they've been associated with educational underachievement and co-occurring psychiatric conditions. Other anxiety disorders, if a child has social anxiety, they might also have generalized anxiety. They might also have agoraphobia. It also increases their likelihood of having co-occurring psych conditions like depression and oppositional defiant, which can present as that like behavioral issue, anger, and also these functional impairments can persist into adulthood, which is why I like to give these tools early, because they do have such a high rate of persisting. Those anxious toddlers very much often tend to become anxious adolescents, anxious adults. So this rewiring this neural circuitry becomes very strengthened. And so educational underachievement can be associated with that, as well as substance abuse, because there's so much to say about this topic, but let me just focus on like avoidance, for example. Avoiding things that are deemed stressful or unsafe creates this wiring that actually fuels anxiety, because they are avoiding things like, oh, this isn't safe for me to do. It's not safe for me to take this risk or to put myself in this position. And when they don't do it, they are like, okay, I'm safe. My brain is like, I made it, and now I'm going to keep avoiding that. So they're avoiding things, and they're avoiding things that cause them anxiety and stress. Let's say if it's even like something like homework or something like that makes them, they don't feel good about, they tend to create this avoidance, fuels this anxiety, and they just create these negative associations around things that that they might very well excel in, but they've just now created this avoidance pattern. So, and like I was saying, anxiety disorders frequently co-occur with other psych disorders, and particularly ADHD, learning disabilities as well, and then depressive disorders in adolescence. So it has long-term consequences, and I think that's why, and this is what they talk about in the literature and in the medical clinical approach, but for me, it's very important for me that your child's self-esteem is intact and they are aware of how special they are and how competent they are and how capable and resilient that they can be. So child that didn't know that, or that wasn't given tools to access that, often becomes an adult that does not have those tools and doesn't have access or feelings of self-worth and things like that. Nutrition, the GI health, there is so much it's becoming more mainstream how intimately the digestive health and the psychological health are. So that's a big one. Other things, improvement in sleep, mindfulness activities, which are free. You can start doing them today. It's not just meditation. It can be things like breathing exercises. It can be things like tapping, other things to like regulate the nervous system. There's botanical medicines that are used. Certain herbs or teas can be very helpful and supportive. And then there's orthomolecular medicine, just means like specific nutrients that correct any deficiencies or imbalances. So that's like supplements. And then there's movement as medicine. And then there's homeopathy. And there's a lot of things, but those are the things that I'll just touch on today. So some take-home messages. Nutrition. If all you do, I have so much research and literature to support all this, but let me just give you the takeaway. If all you do is take out the additives, food colorings, and sugars, processed foods, remove those as much as possible, especially food colorings, because there's a lot of research around that in ADHD specifically. Add lots of vegetables, good fats, protein, just incorporating quality water, clean protein, and fiber is a surefire way to see improvements in health and even behavior and cognitive performance. In the naturopathic community, we often hear about our patients or clients being thanked by teachers for putting their child on Ritalin when all that changed was their diet. And so this is very individualized. I like to individualize nutrition to the person because they can be eating all the right things, but not even realize that their child has certain sensitivities or has compromised intestinal permeability and isn't fully absorbing all the nutrients. So that's something that when you work with a naturopathic doctor or whoever, they can help you with that. But the general guidelines of just avoiding food additives, colorings, and sugars can really, really help and get them a lot of really good protein. You can notice improvements in anxiety, behavior, and sleep. The other thing, sleep, there are a variety of things to help with that. I really like exercise for sleep, mindfulness therapies, just helping them bring a sense of calm and peace can help that. And I usually see when you do other things or you see improvements in other areas, sleep also gets improved as well. I don't usually see improvements in anxiety without improvements in sleep as well. Some micronutrient therapies that are really interesting. People always want to know what's the new supplement that I can just give. It all works together. It's very holistic, but there's a lot of research on the supportive effects of different minerals, vitamins, amino acids. It can get confusing, so I definitely recommend working with someone to get clarity on what's right for your kid. But some names that come up are zinc, magnesium, which can be also helpful for like muscle tension, headaches, and sleep as well. B vitamins, which are crucial for the brain. L-theanine, which is an amino acid to help improve symptoms of anxiety, increase concentration, improve sleep quality, and it's also non-sedating. There was a double-blind placebo-controlled trial on L-theanine with 90 boys with ADHD, and they were found to have significant improvements in sleep quality with L-theanine. There's pycnogenol, there's omega-3s, there's phosphatidylserine, which is kind of a newer player for ADHD, and it's been shown to be helpful for ADHD as well as high functioning autism. And it's just like it supports a type of fat that's found abundantly in the brain and it has many roles, including involvement in production of dopamine and acetylcholine. So it helps with like memory, focus, reasoning. A lot of naturopathic students, when they're studying for their board exams, they're taking phosphatidylserine. The other thing, movement as medicine. If there is one thing you do on this list and nothing else, movement, get them active. Family walks, going to the park, getting outside and moving is probably the single biggest recommendation of mine, especially during the pandemic, because the benefits are so multifold. You get time away from screens, time with family, and it's a good creative outlet. Get them on a bike, get them running, get that blood pumping, get their heart rates going. And there's so many benefits to movement for anxiety, for depression, for sleep, for ADHD, for so many things. I'm happy to send you all the research if that's what you need to get motivated, but it just feels good. You get endorphins, and it's just really, really powerful to get moving. We think it's so simple, but the simplest things to do are also the simplest things not to do. So I'm here to just remind you, like, this is going to help. There's even some adults with ADHD that say that if I just do the biggest difference for me accomplishing my tasks and staying focused is my morning run or my morning bike ride or whatever it may be. And so it's interesting, I want to include that there's some research to support that fidgeting that we all often associate with ADHD is purposeful. There was a 2015 study from the University of Mississippi Medical Center that found hyperactivity and ADHD help kids learn rather than hinder them. So it was like movement to get the juices flowing. And there's also research that found that kids with ADHD perform better on tests after exercising. They had less fatigue and confusion, more motivation, more energy, more focus, and more positive feelings. Mindfulness is the other one. Like I was talking about meditation, there's breathing exercises. 4-square breathing is a really common breathing technique that we recommend, which is just breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, and you do a few cycles of that, you are putting your nervous system in a different state entirely. Once you're out of that adrenaline fueled sympathetic fight or flight mode and you go into that more parasympathetic calm state, you're more open for learning, you're more open for digestion, for your gut is able to absorb nutrients better. So being in that state more, and you can do it very, very simply within a few minutes with breathing exercises. Tapping is another one. I've included some resources where you can download apps and you can help your child or yourself learn some tapping techniques because so many emotions are stored in the body. So that's another one. Homeopathy, I saved this for last because if I started talking about this in the beginning of the talk, we wouldn't even get to talk about anything else. It's like my favorite. It's probably the gentlest and the most powerful tool in my toolbox. And it's something that's helped me personally, and I use it with just about every single one of my clients. It is very individualized. So I ask a lot of really in-depth questions to get an understanding of your child's patterns, their susceptibilities and their strengths, and as well as their weaknesses. Like why, do some children react to stress this way and some react this way? It's very important for me to know the difference. And also some really weird symptoms that parents don't know what to do with, like why is my child like burrowing in the pillow? Why are they hitting themselves and slapping themselves and scratching themselves? Why are they behaving in these weird kind of ways? Why are they waking up in the middle of the night screaming? It really helps address some of these very specific things to the child. And those are very useful things for me. When I'm selecting a remedy, I usually pick just one. And it is an energetic medicine. A lot of people, when they go to Whole Foods, natural food stores, you see those blue little tubes with the small little pellets. A lot of people that have used arnica, you've used homeopathy before. And it's much more for just first aid or trauma or injury. It can really help on a very deep level to create some shifts for your children. So I know I flew through that. And my main goal is not to overwhelm you with all of these things you can do. I just want to help parents feel like awareness of all the different things that they can try, and also that there is hope, that there is things that you can do.